my fellow readers. Today I am here with a book tag video, and today's book tag is going to be the Birthstone book tag with a twist. So the all the information on the Birthstone book tag will be down below. I just found it randomly. I thought it looked fun, so here we go. The twist for mine, usually it is not with a twist, but I'm twisting it, and for mine I'm going to only use manga selections for my book picks, and that's my little twist. So let's get started. The first month is January, and January stone is garnet, and the category for the book is name a book with the darkest or evilest character. And for me, and for manga, I decided to go with Frieza from Dragon Ball Z because, it took so long for Frieza's battle, and Frieza was actually kind of just an epic villain. Like, I don't know if anybody remembers that build up to Frieza, but then just discovering, like, the wickedness of Frieza. I mean, Dragon Ball had some pretty good villains, I think, especially as it goes on, but Frieza just always stands out to me, and the fact that Frieza would take over planets and then essentially either murder the whole population or at times, make the population his servants to go and kill other planets' populations, as was the case with Vegeta. I just find that, like, so villainous and dark, and that was really the first time that we had that kind of major villain in Dragon Ball. Later, there was the other villains, but Frieza still stands out, and I'll never forget when Frieza came back and it was like, oh no, why are you back? I also really loved Cell, so I don't want to downplay that at all. Like, Cell was another, like, really bad villain, and I think Dragon Ball had some good villains, and I think that they really set up a lot of future shonen villains. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Frieza, even though I remember just thinking about how evil Cell was as well. So there's my darkest or evilest villain. I might have to I'm like, now Cell is sticking in my mind, but they're both pretty bad. I think the thing with Cell is because he was comprised of all the DNA, like the various DNAs, to make, like, this ultimate fighting evil machine. It's not really a machine, he was a biological creature thing, but the experiment that was Cell, that was also a very compelling character. Good job, Akira Toriyama. That was some good villains. The next month is February, and the birthstone is amethyst, and the category for February is name a book with regal qualities. And for me, I don't know why, because it could be other things, but for me, I just had to go with Ouran High School Host Club. Tamaki was always so, like, princely, overall ruler of the host club, and really the school as well, that this just popped into my head for that. I mean, yes, we have manga with royalty in general, like obviously Sailor Moon, Yona of the Dawn, just a lot of series where there's characters that are literally royalty, but when I think about regal qualities, I think of Tamaki. So I had to go with Ouran High School Host Club, and specifically Tamaki. The next month is March, and the birthstone is aquamarine, and the category for this month is to name a character who is wishy-washy. And for me, what immediately popped into my mind is the main character, I think her name was Yukino, from Missions of Love, and I would say wishy-washy for her only because she was a bit more dense than necessarily wishy-washy, but at the same time she was also kind of wishy-washy. There is a whole struggle, I guess, within herself about, because she was dense about her feelings, it was then like this wishy-washy conflict between whether she should go after Shigure or her cousin, I think his name was Akira, if I remember correctly. And I don't know, she was just so annoying with that whole thing. And that series was way too long for the general storyline of it. The other wishy-washy character I think of is the main character from The Cornered Mouse Dreams of Cheese, because he's a character that literally, if you declare your love for him, he will go off with you, essentially. And, you know, there was a lot that you didn't know that character's true feelings, and he didn't really know his true feelings, and yeah, very wishy-washy. So between the two of them, you have your pick of wishy-washiness. The next month is April, and the birthstone is Diamond, and the category is name a book that you love but is not well known. For me, I had to go with Imadoki by Yu Watase. Even though Yu Watase is well known, you know, pretty much everyone has heard of either Fushigi Yugi or Serei's The Celestial Legend. Very few ever bring up Imadoki. Imadoki is more of just like a contemporary story manga. You're not going to get that fantasy element. It is literally just a character and her school life and meeting other people and her relationships with those people. And in this case, the main character, Tenpopo, like builds a gardening club, and then it's like meeting these other people, and there's a really cute fox in this. And I don't know, it's a very simple, very short manga series, but I love this one, and nobody ever talks about it. I believe it's still in publication because this is a Viz one, and very few of them end up out of print, so I believe you can still get this. And I would recommend that you do, especially if you like shoujo stories and relationship fiction. This is really, really good, and Yu Watase always has beautiful art. Another one for that category that I'll just mention very quickly is Strobe Edge by Iosaki Saka. Again, right now, you'll hear about Iosaki Saka's newest work, Love Me, Love Me Not, and Iosaki Saka's biggest work is Blue Spring Ride or Awaharu Ride. I think that you'll hear about those more than the one that I'm mentioning, which I think is very, like, not well known, and that's Strobe Edge. I believe Strobe Edge is also still in print, because I think that was another Viz one. So I would recommend looking up that one. That's a longer series, and I just think it deserves more attention. The next month is May, and the stone is Emerald, and the category is name two characters that balance each other well. And there are a lot of choices in manga for that, especially when there's like teams involved. You know, you can look at some of the big things. I think like Naruto and Sasuke and Megumi and Yuji. I don't know, there's a lot of them. But for me, also Usagi and Mamoru, I think actually balance each other out well. But for me, like the one that I always go to, only because I think it's very much like that balance of light and dark, is Subaru and Seishiro from Tokyo Babylon. And, you know, they have the complete balance and the intertwining of pasts and familial relationships. They're literally like on opposite sides of their family's beliefs, like are different from one another. So the Sumeragi clan is very different from the Sakurazuka family. It's an interesting dichotomy that exists from Tokyo Babylon into X 1999. So you will see their relationship there. And then also you get to see them a bit in Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle. And I don't remember, they might also appear a bit, because Holic and Tsubasa intertwined. You might see them a bit there. I don't remember exactly. But I think that just sets it up perfectly. I also think Subaru balances well with Kamui from X 1999. But they're on more of a similar vibes level. So there's more relating to one another, and Subaru being older, taking kind of like an older brother mentor role with him. But I think that they also balance each other well. But yeah, his balance opposite is Seishiro, and Seishiro and Subaru have a great relationship to read about. I just think it's very intriguing. So there's my May pick. June has the Birthstone of Pearl, and the category is name a character who is loyal to the end. And for me, that one has to go to this character right here, Usagi. What isn't Usagi willing to do for her friends? I think we've seen that she's definitely willing to sacrifice herself for her friends and the world repeatedly. So she's definitely loyal to the end. And also the other Sailor Guardians are also very, very loyal right to the end. So I think here you're going to get a lot of loyalty. And definitely you're going to find characters like that in other shonen stories and in other shoujo fantasy series. I think you would find a lot more characters that are loyal to the end too. People who are willing to fight together and then die for one another is really a popular theme throughout a series like that. So the next month is July, and the birthstone is Ruby, and the category for this month is name a book that made your blood boil. And this one was very easy for me to answer because there is one series in particular that I just despised the setup of and many of the characters in, and that was Hot Gimmick. Hot Gimmick was really touted as like this classic shoujo series that you should read if you read the genre. Then it was like, don't forget to read Hot Gimmick. So, of course, being the connoisseur that I am, I made sure to read Hot Gimmick. And I hated the premise of it. I hated the male lead. Never have I read more of a disturbing and unhealthy relationship than Hot Gimmick. The main relationship that we see is essentially a very abusive relationship. The guy is mentally abusive. He's a little bit physically abusive. It's just not healthy at all. He's overly domineering to the female lead, and she's just so dumb about it. She has no backbone, whatsoever. Not at any point does she, say this is not okay and, demand her own rights. And it's just so frustrating. I hated that whole experience. It was miserable. And, the only relationship that was semi-healthy, where the guy was nice to her and respecting of her as a person, I think he was also, her adopted or stepbrother or something. I can't remember all of the details. I think there was, a familial relationship there, which, made that kind of an uncomfortable choice for her. But, those were literally her two choices. Either this guy that's really abusive, which was essentially the way that the story was going. Oh, isn't this cute? He's really only that abusive because he, likes her, which, no. That's not acceptable. It is not acceptable at all. That's not love. That's not showing affection. No, it was abusive and disgusting and wrong, and I hated it. Yeah, so she had that, or she had her guy that was raised as her brother. Those were the two choices that were introduced to us, and it was just very not enjoyable for me at all. So the next month is August, and the stone is Peridot, and the category for August is name a supporting character that you like more than the main character. And this was surprisingly easy for me. It's not a series that I own, and I kind of wish I did, because it did turn out to be super good. In my opinion, I liked it. And so the character is Yuzuru, and he is from Anonymous Noise. Yuzuru was not the main lead or the male lead. He's kind of the second male lead. And I would stand by the fact that I think Yuzuru was actually the protagonist of that story. There are other stories that are happening, but I think without Yuzuru, none of the events of that story would actually happen. So he is in fact the protagonist. But yeah, he steals the show. Like there is a setup pretty much. I think you're supposed to sort of buy into the fact that there will be a love triangle. But I don't think that it really reads that way just because of the setup. And maybe it's just because I've read a lot of shoujo. That there are lots of times where you're like, this is not really a love triangle. Sometimes it works and you will have that and you have like that tension and you don't know who that person is going to choose. But there are other times you're like, this is not really a love triangle. And in a lot of those times you almost feel bad for the other character that's not going to be chosen. My biggest frustration is usually when that happens as well. There will be another character that's introduced to, I don't know, soften the blow. Like, it's okay, even though she's not going to choose him. Here's girl number 2 that you don't really care about, and she'll take care of the other one. I'm not really a big fan of when that happens either, unless the narrative really works that way. I know some people felt that way about, possible spoilers here, but some people felt that way about Komachi from Fruits Basket. I didn't feel that way from her, actually, surprisingly enough. Just because if you really follow that story along, then you should know more about Yuki and Yuki's development as a character. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, back to Yuzuru. He's an amazing character. The trauma that he has to go through in his life, even just to pursue his music career, is emotionally driven, and I think that the love that he feels is so pure and true that he's just a beautiful character. And so I was always reading it more for what's going on with Yuzuru than for the other main characters. So thank you, Yuzuru, for existing. And if you like music and you like band, manga, or even shows, check out Anonymous Noise. So the next month is September, and the stone is Sapphire. And the category for September is name a book that had a calming effect on you. There's actually a few that relax me and make me calm for whatever reason. Cardcaptor Sakura always works. Sasaki and Miyano is a very gentle read that I like. And then most recently, for my gentle, relaxing reads, it's Cheese, Sweet Home, and really any of the other cat tales by Konami Kanata work as well. But they're just soft, gentle, relaxing reads. You don't have to get too anxious reading it. Like, you're just going to have a good time reading some cute cat tales. So this has been the most recent, but also, even though there's a lot of action and emotion in Cardcaptor Sakura, that also relaxes me for whatever reason. And then Sasaki and Miyano is so cute. I love that one too. And that's another one where the chapters are like short chapters, so I don't know. It's just nice, soft, short chapter read. The next month is October, and the birthstone is Opal, and the category is name an iridescent book, or a book with a beautiful cover or character. And so for me, for this, I could not help but think of the Eternal edition of Sailor Moon with its iridescent, beautiful covers, and also of Cardcaptor Sakura's collector edition with their beautiful, shining covers. Both stories actually also feature beautiful characters who are loyal and devoted and self-sacrificing, but in an okay way. Not doormat way, just in a positive, doing what they can for other people kind of way. So the next month is November, and the birthstone is Topaz, And the category for November is to name a character who rises to the top in times of adversity. And, you know, there are a lot of shonen titles that could be chosen to answer this. You know, you got your Naruto's, you got your Bleach, and any of them, pretty much, take your pick. But for me, the one character that I think very much fits this category, and one people probably don't think about but probably should, would be Toru Honda from Fruits Basket. This is a character who, she's suffered a lot, and I think that people overlook that because she is such a force of positive energy. So as a very little girl, because of her mother's past and then ending up with Toru's father, you know, they were kind of like from two separate worlds. The family of Toru's father were very negative about Toru's mother and made a lot of comments to and around Toru that were essentially saying that she was not her father's daughter. And so she suffered a lot of mental abuse from that. People saying that, you know, her mother didn't have good morals, and so how can they trust that Toru is her father's kid? And, you know, that she didn't look like him, which I think is actually funny. I think she looks like her dad, but whatever. Saying that she didn't look like him and just like constantly putting her down like that. And these are essentially family members that she should be able to trust that are making her feel so small. And then on top of that, her father does get sick and he dies. And so there's still that feeling of Toru doesn't belong. And yet her dad's not there. And so there's kind of a lack of the ability, I think, to properly grieve because she's filled with so much doubt over what other people are telling her that it's hard for her to know how to feel and if she's allowed to express those feelings. And then for a while, she has a semi-calm life, living with her mother, who's working hard to take care of her. And even though her mother has this, you know, kind of dark past, she's doing her best as a mother and to raise Toru with really good, healthy values. And, you know, her mother wanted her to be the kind of person that could overlook someone's past and who could help people to see the good in them. And I think Toru loved her mother for that, because Toru really felt loved by her mother. And then everybody who knows anything about this story knows that, you know, before it opens, her mother is killed in a terrible accident. And so now Toru is orphaned, and the family that she has to live with is that same family that was telling her that she was not family, essentially. And so she didn't feel wanted, to the point when, and I say that, but technically I think she was just going to live with her grandfather, but then the grandfather's other kids, they were all going to live together, and so they were doing an addition in the house. And that's how Toru ends up saying, oh yeah, it's fine, while you do the renovations, I have somebody to live with. But she didn't want to burden either of her friends by asking, because she knows that they have issues, so she lives in a tent. She doesn't bother anybody else with her problems. You know, she didn't have that. It's not that she doesn't have any support system at that time, because she has two very close friends, but she's such good friends with those two that, one, she doesn't want to burden her one friend who she knows just lives with, I think, her dad. Did she have any siblings? But anyway, her friend is working essentially to take care of the household, and they don't have a lot of space. And the other friend, you know, has a sibling and parents, but I don't know, they got their own issues to deal with. And so she didn't want to burden either of them. And I don't know, I guess we could say that's semi-lucky, because she ends up meeting the Soma family since she was staying on their land, and I think finally finding a place where she can belong. But it also happens to be with people that were very abused. There's a lot of mental health issues, just as all kind of victims of abuse coming together. And that really is what the story is about, is people that were traumatized and dealing with so many issues and finding healing with one another. And I just think it's amazing what she was able to put up with and keep moving forward, and also inspire in other people. The fact that she was always able to listen to these other people, to hear their stories, and to help them heal from the abuses that they suffered and validate them as people, I think is amazing. And she did most of that without ever asking for people to do the same to her. And that really is the beauty of it. And also, I think, ends up being the beauty of Kyo in the end, because he does become a character that time and time again will validate for her that she's allowed to have feelings and express those feelings, as she's allowed also to ask for help and just say that she's having these feelings. And I think also one of the first characters and people to validate her relationship to her father. I feel like this should have been December's category, but Toronda. I would say, like, if you can read a series and you want to be like any character, try to be a bit like Toru for other people. I mean, also learn that you yourself are validated too, and you can ask for help and you can feel things. But that general way that she sees things, there's nothing wrong with that. Just So the last month is December, and the birthstone for December is either blue zircon or tanzanite. I actually like tanzanite better, so I'm just going to say tanzanite. And the final category is to name a book with a friendship that you want to be a part of. And this is probably the toughest question, because literally most manga have such pure, beautiful friendships that anybody would want to be a part of. I mean, one, who wouldn't want to be friends with Toru Handa? Two, have you seen the adorable friendships in Cardcaptor Sakura? If you haven't, they're beautiful and adorable. And three, this one, for sure, Sailor Moon has some of the best friendships ever. Like, these girls, they're all a little bit different. They're all a little bit quirky, but they will do anything for one another. Love Me, Love Me Not. I love that one. I think that friend group that gets created there, like, who wouldn't want to be? Like, they realize how similar they are while being different, and also how they can be accepted by one another. And I don't know, they're so super, super cute. There's so many, like, wholesome friendships that exist in manga. So you pick one. I'd probably happily exist in that friendship world. So that's it for this video. Those are all the book choices that I did. Manga is great for book tags because it has such great variety, I think. But this was super fun to actually make myself choose just from manga. Yeah, I liked it. So I will leave a link to the original video down below. And that's it. Until next time. Bye.